Welcome back to an all new edition of the His and Her Money Show with America's #1 money couple. I'm Talent.
And I'm Ty, and we're from hisandhermoney.com, where we're managing money, marriage, and everything in between.
Welcome to another fantastic edition of the show, one that's going to truly inspire you and motivate you on your journey to financial freedom. We got a great debt freedom story that's lined up for you guys, and you are going to love it. We're going to be talking with a young lady named Jennifer, a mother of, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
A mother of eight who worked and scraped her way to debt freedom. Her husband, and her children had to come up with a lot of strategy, a lot of methods, and a lot of motivation, but they did it, and they were able to accomplish the goal despite having a large family of becoming debt free.
So let's take a listen.
Hey, Jennifer, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this whole thing.
We're excited to have you with us because you have a great story about debt elimination and debt freedom. And we know our audience is going to just absolutely be inspired by it. But before we get into the details of your journey, can you share a little bit about yourself and let our audience know what you're all about?
All right. Well, my name is Jennifer Roskamp, and a lot of people know me as the Intentional Mom because that is where I blog. Because I am a writer and an author and a blogger, and I'm also a mom of 8. And I've been married to my husband for 20 years now. And so I just, I like inspiring other people to accomplish their dreams.
That is awesome. Did you guys hear that? Mother of 8. That means that she is serious about this, and that despite having 8 miles, well, not 8, you got 10 mouths to feed in total, she still was able to make this happen. So let's get into the story a little bit. You were once, deep in debt. You had debt up to your nose, and then, you decided to turn things around. But let's talk about how you got into debt in the first place. Like, how much debt was it? What type of debt was it?
Well, we luckily, a short time after my husband and I were married, we took Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University course. And I don't know if that course even still exists.
Yep.
So, okay, well, that was kind of the game changer for us. And at the time, luckily, we only had a mortgage and some car payments. So we did not have a huge amount of debt. But we certainly could have over the years as, the income has kind of come and gone. So we were just committed. We wanted to pay off our cars, which we did in not too long of a time. We drove nice cars, and we actually downsized our cars. And then we just committed to paying off our mortgage, and we've always lived in a nice house too. And so that's what we did. So we didn't have a huge amount of debt, but we certainly set right about paying off what we did have.
Well, awesome. Now, I know that, for a lot of people, things like car payments and other forms of debt are kind of the norm, no big deal. And really, that's a pervasive mindset throughout the nation. And so for you, there was a point that came that said, this is not what exactly we want to do financially. What was it that triggered the change of mind and got you to even investigate, what is Financial Peace University? How should I be handling my money? Talk about how or what happened to make you kind of shift your mindset there.
Yeah. Well, it was a couple of things. I think the first thing was, when you read any of Dave Ramsey's books or take the course, he talks about the freedom that being financially, debt-free brings. And so I think that was really exciting for us. And then as we started having kids and more kids, we knew that if we had a bunch of debt at the same time, there was no way that we were going to be able to, like you say, feed all these people. And, it became our goal to get out of debt and be completely out of debt by the time we started sending kids off to college. Because again, if we had a bunch of debt that we were paying off at the same time as trying to send kids through college, that wouldn't have been nearly, we're not to that point yet, but we would not be able to, offer college to our kids if we had a bunch of debt to pay at the same time without putting us more in debt or them in debt with student loans.
Right.
So, that was just not the lifestyle we wanted.
Now, when you all began to have these discussions, were both of you and your husband on board at the same time? Was one of you on board first and the other came on later? What was that dynamic like?
Well, that's a good question because it really was, he took the course, we took the course together, but I was the one who really jumped on the bandwagon in the beginning. And, my husband was a little bit more reluctant. He grew up in a spending family more than I did. And so So we were different. He was reluctantly on board, but once he started seeing the difference that living frugally and starting to pay down the debt was making, then he got more on board.
Mhm.
So, it was definitely more me in the beginning, although he was willing, but in terms of the day-to-day operations, it was harder for him to make that commitment than it was for me. But after a year or two is probably when it got easier for him, when he started seeing that our cars were paid off and we started putting extra money on the mortgage and it became, more exciting.
Mhm.
He's kind of a show me the results kind of guy. So once he could start to see some of the results, it became an easier thing for him to do.
Awesome. Now, can you talk kind of to that spouse that's listening right now who is at the place where you once were, where they're on board, but they have a reluctant spouse? Like how, I know it took a couple of years, a year or two for him to get on board. How did you handle that interim period where you were shouldering most of the load in this effort?
Yeah, I think it takes definitely some tolerance and some understanding. You can't, especially because my husband wasn't used to saving and living frugally. We kind of had to take baby steps. I had to take baby steps with him. I still had to give him an allowance and a very large allowance. I had to give him the freedom of having some of his own money to spend. And, as time went on, I could get a little bit more radical with the things I was asking him to do. So I think, what I always would say to that kind of a spouse is just be patient and don't get frustrated and don't expect your spouse to bite off more than they can chew, which probably, they need to take small bites, especially if this is totally new to them, as it was to my husband, basically. He had to learn things in baby steps more than I did. And I think being patient with that is probably the most important thing I would say is to be patient and, to not expect it all at once.
Awesome. Now, for most people that got out of debt, just like you and I, one of two things or both happened. You either decreased your spending or you increased your income or you did both. For you all, where do you fall in that category?
Decreasing spending.
Hmm.
My husband has been in school now 7 out of the last 12 years, which we've paid to put him through. And he's just getting done now. And so now, hopefully, we're going to be getting to the point where our income is going to start increasing. But we actually, throughout this, my husband was for a while the only one working, and he worked on commission. And well, you know what happened in,
Yeah.
2007, 2008. I mean, that was devastating to us. But luckily, we had an emergency fund in place, that helped carry us. And then we actually also had job loss in the midst of that. My husband's, and he was basically the only one working. But, had we not already had the tools we had in place to know how to live within our means, that would have been much more devastating than it was. So for us, really, it was always a decreased spending rather than an income increase. But we're looking forward to hopefully having the income increase
Hmm.
soon. So yeah, for us, it was definitely always decreasing. And it wouldn't always stay low. It ebbed and flowed. There were times where the money was greater. And then because we knew that with my husband working on commission and him being in school, then it was not go out and start living extravagantly just because the money was there. It was sock more of it away in savings because we know the time will come when we're going to need that.
Hmm.
So it was definitely a decrease in spending for us.
Now, can you give our audience some examples of some ways that you all were able to decrease on your spending? Because I'm sure a lot of them are looking at their budget or looking at their financial situation like, I don't see anything I can cut back on. And maybe they
Yeah.
just need a little spark
Yeah.
to get creative.
Yep. I think it's amazing what you can really cut when you really get radical
Hmm.
about it. We cut out cable. We increased our insurance premiums, whether that was, car insurance, you increase those premiums and you put away, it's those Dave Ramsey
Hmm.
principles. You increase your premiums and you put away that difference in savings so that when your car needs something, you've got the money in savings. But you know what? If it doesn't have something that needs that money in savings, that money is yours. So we decreased our phone plans. We got rid of our home phone. We sold stuff. You've got so many people have stuff around
Yeah.
their house that they don't even realize they're not using. You can get crazy with that kind of stuff. So, it's amazing what you can really do if you are committed to just really looking and saying, what can I do? And our grocery budget. As a blogger, one of my most popular posts was about how we feed our family of 8 for $250 a month.
Whoa.
And that is by Yeah, and that
Nice.
is by being smart. And we only buy things that are on sale. It's funny because my kids don't say, when can you buy that cereal again? It's more like, when do you think that cereal is going to be on sale again? Because they know that we only buy it if it's on sale.
Mm.
And so, I certainly have found over the years, as you have too, probably, that as you research, you spend your time researching and shopping around for insurance rates. That's another huge thing. I live in Michigan, and in Michigan, we pay among the highest rates in the whole country for car insurance.
Mm.
And every 6 months, I'm calling different insurance companies to see where is the lowest rate this time around. And it's not often the same thing, but one time I had an $800 difference from one company to the other for the
Wow.
exact same thing. And so, all that stuff takes time, and that's hard. People can say, "Oh, I don't feel like doing all that." But I looked at that as kind of a part-time job for me. The money that I'm saving on groceries and on this and on that, I looked at as my part-time job.
Wow.
And that made the time easier for me to give. So I think, to answer your question, it would just be, insurance, and what can you sell and what can you downgrade? Do you really need that cable plan? Do you really need that cell phone plan? Do you really need cable at all? Do you really need to have such a high food budget? Do you really need to go out to dinner as much as you go out? Can you make do with something instead of buying new?
Mm.
So I think once you really start to get excited about finding those kinds of solutions, it becomes contagious too. Then it becomes, wow, I recycled this or I
Mm.
repurposed this. So then you get excited to do it again.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, and we'll also be sure everybody that's tuned in to have a link to Jennifer's article about feeding her family of 8 on a $250 budget for you all to check out. Now, I know that this journey that you guys went on wasn't all smooth sailing. There had to be some bumps in the road. You kind of mentioned the fact that you all survived the recession and then a job loss. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit more about those situations and exactly how you were able to get through it? Because somebody might be in that position right now.
Yeah. Well, whenever I talk to people about being frugal, I think the most important thing is to have a commitment to getting out of debt and to being frugal. And that commitment is what's going to carry you through those kinds of times, because everything always came back to that.
Mm.
You know, you have to live on less than you make. And so when when what you make becomes less, you have to, like we talked about, you have to find things to cut. And I will say too, having an emergency fund, that was another huge thing. That's how we weathered some of those storms a couple of different times when our income was severely down for several months. It was dipping into that emergency fund a little bit at a time. And by that time too, we had paid down enough on our mortgage that we were able to take our traditional mortgage and we owed so little that we could roll it into a home equity line, which then allowed us, we had a payment of $50 a month
Oh,
after we were able to do that.
wow.
But, had we not prepared up to that point, we wouldn't have had those options. So, I think being committed to being out of debt and being frugal is so much the ability to help you withstand when you have to live frugally
Mm.
and when the money just dries up,
Mm.
you know? So having those kinds of things in practice and already knowing how to do those things really helped us weather those times that it was really tight.
Yeah. Now, can you share a little bit more about the little technique that you just kind of mentioned there? Because I know there are several people tuned in that are on that baby step. They're paying off their home mortgage, and you kind of hit on the fact that you all got closer to the end and kind of rolled it into a line of credit. Talk to us a little bit more about how that works.
Well, I will also say too that 90 to 95% of the time that we've had a mortgage or that we had a mortgage, it was always a 15-year mortgage because the rates are always so much better. And, if you can swing the payment on a 15-year mortgage, the difference there is astronomical in what you're going to pay over the long haul. So I will say that we always had that. And to be honest, I was not thinking about a home equity line of credit. It happened at the time that my husband lost his job and I went into where our mortgage was and I said, "Look, this is what happened. What can I do? I can't afford this payment." And they were actually the ones who sat down with all the numbers and said, "You know what? You owe so little, you can roll it into a home equity loan. Look at what this will turn into for you."
Nice.
So it really took me going into the bank and saying, "Look, I have got to figure something out about this." And our mortgage rate was pretty low. It was still within the 4%, 5%. But, they said this can make a huge difference. And it took that 15, because our mortgage payment, I think, was like $700 or $800 at the time. But because again, we had the ability to go into the home equity line, it took that payment down on that minute amount that we owed and made it $50 a month. But it was totally them saying, hey, this is what you can do. It makes more. I thought we'd refinance. That's what I thought I went in there to do. They said, no, you can do a home equity loan
Wow.
because you owe so little.
I love it.
So
I love it. I love it. That's an awesome technique. Very, 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 very wise way to go about it. So talk to us about the moment when you made that very last debt payment. What was it like?
Well, we are actually about 2 months from that.
Okay.
So we haven't done that yet, but it is so close that I can taste it and I cannot wait. It just makes me so excited thinking about it. I know we're going to do something really fun, like grab our old mortgage payments
Mm-hmm.
and rip them up and, let them shower down on top of us. I
Mm-hmm.
know I want to call into the Dave Ramsey show
Mm-hmm.
and yell that I'm debt free on there. We're so close that I can't wait. I just can't wait. So we haven't been there yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I can totally feel that moment.
It's right there.
And it's right there. And our goal was 40. Our goal was 40 to be out of debt completely by 40. And we're not, both of us are not yet 42. So we almost made it, but I can tell you when we made that goal 15 years ago, we didn't know we'd have 8 kids either. So that kind of changed things. I think we would have been on target had we only had a few kids.
Now,
So we cut ourselves some slack there.
awesome, awesome. What do you guys have planned for life after debt?
Vacation. We are going to take a vacation. We have a vacation planned for next year. We haven't actually booked anything yet, but that's going to be kind of our big celebration, is just to take our family on a vacation, because that's one of those things that we just have kind of always foregone. We haven't done a ton with vacations. And so that really was first on our list, is that's what we're going to do. And to be honest too, I mean, our oldest is now almost 16, so we're going to we're going to have to start dealing with college
Right.
soon also. So but it's just having that freedom and looking forward to knowing that we can withstand whatever happens because we're in the position we're in. And but we are going to splurge and take a vacation.
Awesome, awesome. Now, on this incredible journey that you and your family have been on, what has been the biggest life lesson that you've taken away from it all?
I think it's that anybody really can accomplish things that sound really hard and things that seem so far off in the future. You really can just whittle away at those a little bit at a time. And it's just doing the hard stuff. I think after going through this whole thing, we really feel like, and even, I think it's really exciting for my husband that I can accomplish anything. I mean, you kind of just have that feeling that, I set about a goal and oh my goodness, after 15 years, I accomplished it. And it does just kind of give you that feeling of kind of being on top of the world.
Hmm.
So, I think it's just, you can do hard stuff and you can do stuff that feels and seems so different than what everybody else chooses, but you really can do it even when it's hard.
I agree wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. Now, one of the things that we love to promote here is self-education, because that was such a key and vital part to Ty and I getting out of debt 9 years ago, was to just keep filling ourselves with knowledge, especially in the area of personal finance. So do you have any books that kind of struck a chord with you that helped you along the way?
Well, really, the biggest one was Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. I mean, that really, because that lays out the steps and, kind of the correct order of doing it. And it really is the order that made the most sense to us too. Um, but his Total Money Makeover, I'm a huge Dave Ramsey fan. And like you, I firmly believe that there are so many people out there who have so much that we can learn from. We just have to be open to learning it and hearing new things and trying new things. And so in everything, I think it is so good to just always be looking to learn, always be looking to learn and just being open to trying new things. But I would say Dave Ramsey's books, if you're saying what is the most the most inspiring thing for you, it really was that book. We went back to that book and the notes we had from the course time and time and time again to make sure we were doing it right and to make sure we were still on course. And so for us, that was huge.
Now, Jennifer, if there's somebody tuned into the show right now who is a little bit less than motivated, and kind of unsure as to whether or not they have what it takes to get out of debt and start or continue on in their journey to debt freedom, what words of encouragement can you offer to that person?
Well, I think I would say first off that I think we all kind of feel that way in the beginning. I mean, we all feel like, oh my gosh, here's this mountain that's in my way, and how can I ever do it? And so I think I would first say you're not alone in feeling that way. I think that's a common feeling. And from there, I think I would say that baby steps, one little thing at a time. And if you start to get off course, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. Get back on course. I
Mm-hmm.
think so many people, myself included, are so good at just completely beating ourselves up, and we feel like, oh, we totally blew it, well, we totally blew it. So now I'm going to go out and I'm going to spend money here and spend money there. And, you know, I, I think we're so good at beating ourselves up like that. And one of the things I want to say to people so much is that's okay. We all make mistakes. Get back on the course, figure out where you went wrong, and figure out how to do it different. But I think to answer that reluctant person who wants it but is worried and maybe a little bit scared of how to do it, I would say one little thing at a time. Find someone whose message resonates with you and just, follow what they are kind of saying one little bit at a time, and don't let somebody else's goals or time frame become yours, because everybody's different and everybody's dynamic is different. Make it your own. I think that's huge too. You have to have some grace in there for yourself, and you have to just kind of recognize that, put your own personal spin on it. Your finances are not going to be my finances. Your budget's not going to be my budget. But putting tools like that in place, setting financial goals, long term, short term, coming up with a budget. You've got to know what's coming in and going out.
Mm-hmm.
Those basics are so important. Find out how to do that kind of stuff, and then do it.
Yeah. Great advice, Jennifer. Great advice. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about your website, theintentionalmom.com?
That is a busy and fun place. I do a lot. My overall goal with it is to help people parent and plan and spend and save with intention. Because the thing is that without intention in our lives, I think everything just kind of passes us by. Our family life can pass us by, our finances can pass us by, and before you know it, 5 years, 10 years have gone by, and you're like, whoa, what's happened? And I do enjoy writing about frugal stuff and helping people save money and stuff like that, because I know what a difference it can make in their lives. It's just having some core principles about that. And just like I'm sure you receive emails from people who say, hey, I read that thing that you wrote and it really made a difference in my life. And this is how, and that is so exciting to hear that kind of stuff. And so that makes me even more excited to share more of what I know. And so I write about parenting, I write about homeschooling, I write about frugal stuff, I write about time management stuff, because it really is all about just kind of being intentional in the choices that we make. And so my goal is to just kind of help equip other people to fulfill their goals and dreams, just like I've been able to do through learning from others. So that's kind of just my passion, is to help people do that.
Great job. So, Jennifer, we can't say thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and share your story with our audience today. We know that they loved it. We know that they're inspired by it. And so we just want to say thanks for taking time to come on the show today.
Well, you are welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wow, what an incredibly motivating story.
Yeah, I love their story, because I think sometimes there's a misconception that having a large family means that you won't be able to accomplish certain things, such as debt freedom, because the cost of having to take care of 8 children can be very overwhelming. But hey guys, you just saw a family that was able to do it. So now you can do it as well too. We believe in you guys.
Yeah.
We believe in you so much that we created a totally free ebook just for you. If you go to hisandhermoney.com/8 steps, that's the number 8. Again, hisandhermoney.com/8 steps. You can begin your journey to debt freedom now.
Well, guys, that's it for this week. It's been great. Until next time.
Bye.
Peace.